ever since we got engaged. I'm like, are you gonna love me forever? I don't want to turn into those relationships where you're just married. I want that joy, I want that love, I want that happiness, and I want our friendship to be like this forever. I want it to always feel this way. I don't want the effort to ever be given up.
So 98% of dating relationships today split up. Most couples are not doing what you're doing. Why are so many people in your generation not being able to?
I had a lot of examples of healthy relationships, and we also come from families with very great belief backgrounds. But I think a lot of people may not necessarily have that center, may not have beliefs or have examples that they're following. If an argument happens, it's like, oh, I love you. Like that's it.
You guys have the same issues every couple on the planet does.
Yeah.
Right? You're not coming to screaming matches and then threatening to break up. What do you guys do differently in that moment? You have a flash of anger. What do you do different? Kenzie, I'm glad to have you back. But since the last time we talked, something really special happened, right? I was cruising on your Instagram and I was like, oh, no way. I was blown away. I had to show my wife. I said, I know her. This is cool. Congratulations on getting engaged.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is so cool. I want to talk to you a lot about that in a bit, but we're going to put a pin in it because last time you came on, we had a great conversation about Gen Z, about what ladies out there are facing right now. And it's honestly some ugly stuff, right? In dating, not all bad, but there's a number of things that people wrote into the comment sections, men and women and different age groups. They wanted to know more and they had some very specific questions they wanted to hear your thoughts on, and they really wanted us to address it. So everybody in the audience, thank you for your questions. It was helpful. Is that cool with you? Can I pop in with some questions?
Yeah.
Very cool. So last time in our conversation, a lot of people were most blown away by your views on what women are experiencing, how women are feeling. Even some of the women in the audience were kind of blown away. The way you articulated it, you really gave voice to some of the feelings they had had for a long time. They weren't really aware that it was okay to even have those feelings. I think women go through that quite a lot. And one of the biggest topics that came up, and I want to talk about this first, is why do you think that so many women are having a hard time voicing their needs in relationships? Let's start with romantic relationships, even to be really specific. Why are women having a hard time there?
From my experience and my understanding, I actually think that women do not have a hard time speaking up. I think oftentimes they do say what they need, but a lot of times I don't think men are picking up or hearing them on what they're asking for.
Interesting. Tell me more about this, because a lot of guys that I talk to, they have no idea. They say, why doesn't she just tell me what she wants? Why isn't she direct? And you're telling me she is. In what way are women being direct from your view?
I can almost guarantee you in any time in any relationship, a woman has point blank told her partner something she has wanted. And if it hasn't happened, she might come through with these little hints like, hey, will you do this for me? And men will say, well, how am I supposed to pick up on these hints? Well, she had already told you once before, but you just weren't listening and you didn't follow through with it. Like, for instance, say one day, I asked my partner, hey, why don't you stop by and bring me flowers home today? Like, I would be so appreciative. It would be so nice for him to do that. But it's a totally different experience if he were to just could come home with flowers and surprise me. You see what I mean?
I do. So what you're saying is at some point she probably asked him for flowers, but she's wanting to see if he's going to remember later to do it another time.
Yes.
Okay. Would it still be special if you told him, hey, this meant a lot to me. I would love if you did this in the future. Is that something that women maybe say?
Yeah. I definitely think if they're in a point in their relationships where you definitely come to a point where you're comfortable with speaking up with your needs and speaking up and openly with your partner with no conflict, without feeling pressure or judged for it. And I think women do speak up and say, hey, I would love if you would do this more. I would love if you were to surprise me more, or we could spend more time together. And I think that is something that a lot of people do in their relationships.
Okay. This is a point I'd love to dig in here, because I was a marriage and family therapist for many years, and I do couples coaching. And most of the couples that come in, the men have no clue how to take care of her needs, right? She might actually say something that she says are her needs, but he has no idea. And I think what's being missed is we're speaking different languages. One thing that seems very common, and you tell me if this is right, is that women are sharing their needs, but maybe it's not coming across in a measurable way for him. Another way to say it is this. A lot of times women will say, I want to feel loved. What do you think a woman's meaning when she says that? I want to feel loved.
I think she's kind of asking more for, I want to feel more affirmation. I want to feel more confidence from love than what I'm receiving at this moment. Okay. Not that maybe the love is absent. Maybe she's just wanting to feel more effort coming from their partner into their relationship for the two of them.
And that makes sense to me, right? She's wanting more effort. One concern I have with that, and one thing I hear a lot from guys is, what the hell does that look like? Most of the times when a woman says, I want to feel loved, right? I've got a master's degree in psychology and then 3 years of apprenticeship under marriage and family therapist clinicians. And then I've got years in the field. I've been married 16 years. I've asked all those questions. I got 3 daughters now. I grew up with a sister. I have a niece. I have all these women around me. So through my years of practice, I have slowly learned to understand a little bit about what it means when a woman says, I want to feel loved. Most guys don't have that benefit. So when a woman says, I want to feel loved, he says, what the hell does that mean? So he starts trying to figure out, well, have I ever felt loved? Well, what makes me feel loved? Like, and he goes through the list and he's like, well, I don't know if she wants this thing. Like, okay, I'll buy her a truck. I'll buy her a shotgun. And that's probably not most women don't want a tomahawk. Like, hey, here's a machete, sweetheart. This will make you feel loved. So let's make this a little bit more measurable. Okay. Measurable is the name of the game for most of these conversations. Something I try to teach is, right, make it measurable. So make it trackable, explain, articulate. Have you heard about love languages before?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a love language in your relationship? What was your love language?
I don't even like this question. I think a lot of the times people always ask you, what is your love language? Well, why do you have to only have one love language in a relationship? I think for a healthy relationship, there should be all 5 aspects of the love languages going towards that relationship. There should be the quality time, the words of affirmation, the gift giving, the doing all the things for your partner. I think all of those things need to be included with activities with your partner. It should not just be one thing.
I appreciate this because a lot of times guys are giving love and a woman isn't receiving it because she's narrowed down to 1 or 2. You must do these things for me and nothing else means anything. What do you do? I mean, you're in a relationship and we'll get to that in a minute, but give me an example maybe. Like what are some things your partner does for you maybe that you otherwise would have missed if you didn't have that wide appreciation of all those love languages?
I sound silly, but he does everything. He surprises me. He bought me a gift the other week it was like a silly Harry Potter like air diffuser. He surprised me with that. He always spends quality time with me. We go on dates at least once a week, and he goes out of his way to spend time with my family and babysit with me when he doesn't have to do something of that nature. And he does acts of service. He does stuff around the house. Like before we left for our trip, he went ahead and did all the dishes while I was still packing. He does all these things for me and for us in a really healthy way, and it makes me feel loved.
Okay. Let me ask you this, key point. Did he start doing those things and then you gave him feedback so he would continue, or did you tell him these were important to you so he's started and continued doing them? What was it for you guys? So
when we first moved in together, I realized that to coexist together and to kind of create that
the good chemistry in the home.
The chemistry within the home. You kind of needed to speak up. I needed to speak up and ask for more. Okay. I would say, hey, can you help me with this? And while I was doing something else. And that was something we had to work through when we first moved in together. But now so much we have that understanding, we have that balance, and I don't have to ask for that anymore. But now he sees things that needs to be done, and he picks up the slack where I'm slacking, or vice versa. Okay.
So you guys had what we would call a foundational conversation. You laid it out and said, these are things that are important to me. And he has faithfully carried through on those things because he knows. Yeah. That's beautiful. I think that's a piece that's missing in a lot of relationships is women. And I understand the spontaneous desire, right? I don't want to have to ask for flowers every time. I want him to know that's important. But a lot of women don't even do that. They don't even ask, hey, you know what? Flowers mean a lot to me. So in the future, it would mean a lot to me if you could do that. They're just deathly silent. And the guy's like, what do you want? Nothing. That's fine. And then the dreaded, you should know by now, right? So it sounds like you've gone that step beyond your generation. And I'm almost 40 now, so I have to say your generation. Your generation, a lot of you guys don't articulate that stuff up front. Where did you learn to be that articulated in your relationships? How did you take that step?
I think I just had a lot of examples of healthy relationships growing up in my life, and I'm grateful for that. I know a lot of people really don't have examples like that, so I just think it was taught within my own home, and then the close other family or family friends that I had those healthy relationships too. I've just always been exposed to that my whole life, and I am grateful in that aspect.
Is it so? I think maybe I asked you a wrong question earlier. Actually, earlier I asked you why don't women share their needs in relationships, or why are they holding back? You said they are asking. Is it maybe that women aren't asking in the way that men are listening for that direct, almost confrontational way? Is it because women maybe don't feel comfortable being that confrontational? Could it be that? Are they shy?
I think sometimes, yes, women sometimes may be shy about their needs and not wanting to speak up at certain moments. But I want to go back to what I said earlier. I do think women do articulate what they want at least one or two times, but they don't want to keep bringing it up after that, because then it comes to a point of where the man or the partner could come around and say, well, why are you you're always nagging me about this? They don't want it to turn into that. So they kind of tiptoe it around in a easier way to say that, oh, you're not being upfront with your needs. But realistically, they have already spoken up about it. They're just hinting at it for you to remember.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What has been a point with you and your now fiance, and again, congratulations. What's been a point of communication with him where you guys had to sit down and have a follow-up conversation? Maybe he didn't get something, right? He didn't do it wrong, but he didn't get something. How did you sit down and clarify with him? Because it happens. I know. I've been married 16 years, right? My wife doesn't understand. Sometimes I don't understand. How do you clarify with him in a way that he receives well?
You have to approach one thing I have learned, and I think you should take this with any type of relationship you have in your life. You need to approach a situation and talk to another person in the way you would want to be spoken to. Do not come in a very directive or negative attitude into a conversation like that. That never ends well, regardless of what type of relationship this conversation is happening in. So you need to go into the conversation with an open mind and just speak freely and comfortably with what you're actually asking for. Like, for instance, I will say recently, I'm newly engaged and we are planning our wedding and we are paying for our wedding. My fiance came home the other day and he said, "Hey, I bought a boat." And I said, "You bought a boat?" And I was like, "You really bought a boat?" And he said, "Yeah." I was like, "We are paying for a wedding right now, honey." So we had to reassess this situation, come to another understanding. Happy for him that he got a boat, but we had to discuss this a little bit further.
What was so it's very easy at that point to slip into what I called making statements, right?
Yeah.
We're planning for a wedding, and then it rolls into, you were a jerk, you did this, you did that, you did, and then it's like, you don't care, and we make statements. I'm guessing you didn't do that.
I tried not to.
Yeah.
He saw me. Okay. I took a big breath. I said, and all my tension just went up. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to freak out right now. I know he's really happy about this, so I don't want to ruin the moment, but I'm very mad right now.
How did you roll into a conversation with him? Did you ask him questions? Did you share what you were feeling? What was it? What did you do?
I did ask questions, and that's kind of what diffused the whole situation. I said, "So you bought a boat?" I said, "What kind of boat was it? Do you want to tell me about it?" And he goes and discusses about it. And I said, "Well, how much is this boat?" And he said, "Well, actually, I'm going in with it half full of my friends." And he said, "I'm actually making a trade for something else that I have." And I said, "Oh." Oh,
here we go.
So then all the tension, I was like, okay, good thing I didn't lose my mind right there on him for no reason, because he didn't deserve that.
No kidding.
So I just asked the questions, we talked about it, and then I understood what was going on. And and I have to say, he told me, he said, "I came home to tell you that because I knew you would say, I knew what your reaction would be, and I wanted to see how this would play out."
Well, so I like this. So when I work with a lot of couples, I always look at the woman's reaction to him. What is that buffer between she has an emotion and she has a reaction? And that buffer is her trust level in him. I can measure her trust in him based on that buffer. Does she stop and ask questions? It's not, does she have a bad response or does she get upset? No. What does she do? Okay. So what you did there to me indicates a huge level of trust in him. Would you say that's pretty fair?
Yeah.
Good. You're getting married. I was hoping that would be the yes.
yes.
What has he done in your relationship? And help the guys here in the audience there. Hi, guys. The guys in the audience at home right now, a lot of them don't know what it means like when a woman wants to feel safe. I want to feel safe with you, right? I'd say that would be a level of trust, right? Her trust in him. What has your fiancé done that has built that trust for you, that makes you feel safe with him, safe enough to stop and ask a question?
Well, like I said earlier, we talked about all the five love languages and how he does all those things for me. But there has never been a moment in our relationship where I haven't been able to not feel confidence in him. The effort from him has always been present. It has always been there from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Like when we first started dating, I was a full-time college student and he was working, and he actually worked nights. And so our schedules were like complete opposites, but he always made sure to take the time to schedule out and make a plan with me. How are we going to spend time today? How are we going to have a window to see each other? Okay. So the effort was always there. And I knew with that effort, there was care, and he cared about the relationship we were trying to build.
Okay. So it sounds like not just making you a priority, but talking about you being a priority and letting you know that's what he was doing.
Yes.
Okay. That's a wonderful thing. What other things has he done? Maybe situations you guys have been in, not to air the dirty laundry in public, but what situations has he come through on, or things he has said that made you really grow that confidence in him? Because women don't trust easy, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't. It has to be built. What things has he done that has really built your trust in him? Things he said through the years. Because it's subtle. It's a subtle game.
It sounds silly, but it's not just like a couple of things you can pinpoint on. It's the whole aspect of the relationship. Mm-hmm. It's always the things he says to me. He always tells me he loves me every night, and he kisses me before he leaves for work. And it's all these tiny little moments that make one big hole into our relationship. I can't necessarily just pinpoint that on one thing.
Consistency.
He
is always consistent.
He is consistent.
Okay, so his character never changes. Even when he has a tough day, he still follows through on those things. Mm-hmm. Consistency. That's wonderful. Okay, gotcha.
Well, I want to speak about that, how you said tough days. There are days when I work from home, and I have long days sometimes, and I am stressed. I am up with my ears about things I'm supposed to be getting done for that day. And then Ethan will come home from work, and he has had a very rough or a long day. And as soon as we see each other with the relationship we've built, the confidence and the comfort we have, our days immediately, it just relaxes. Mm-hmm. It's so much better. Mm-hmm. The minute that we see each other, we talk, we just kind of come back to earth moment.
What do you guys do? Because that's a reunification moment. I call that a reunification ritual. At the end of the day, I walk out of my home office. I work from home too. I walk out of the home office. I go up and I find my wife and kids, and we have a big hug. Mm-hmm. Maybe I swing one of them around and play with them a little bit. But my wife and we hug each other at the end of the day. Even though we're working from home, we give each other a big hug. Mm-hmm. I just say, "How's your day?" Right, and she tells me, and we just kind of share that. But that's our ritual every day. That tells me that my work shift has ended. It tells her that I'm back mentally in the home with her in that capacity. What do you guys do? What's your reunification ritual?
Honestly, that he'll come through the door, and sometimes I'll run in there and greet him. I'm like, "Hey, I'm just excited to see him. I'm excited that he's home." But other times, if I'm still in the middle of filming or working on my phone in my room, he'll come in there. He'll wait until he hears me not speaking to the camera, opens the door, and comes in and greets me. And we hug, we kiss. I ask him how his day was. He asks him how mine's going, and we'll say, not so good, but it's a little better. It's better now.
Can I ask you something slightly controversial? Because there's another topic I want to jump on, but you just said something really cool that's a little bit controversial. Is that cool?
Yeah. Okay, I'll try.
A couple months back, there was a big video that went viral on Twitter. Okay. It was a picture, it was a security camera outside of a couple's house. You probably saw this. And it showed the wife greeting her husband at the door every day, over and over and over. And it spawned this huge thing online. Guys were like, I would go to war for this, like just to be greeted at the door when I come home. She would jump up, throw her arms around him. He would like swing her around, and then they would walk in the house over and over and over. But there was a huge group of women that came online and said, she's acting like a puppy dog. Men shouldn't expect this. This is stupid. It's demeaning that she's greeting him this way. It was this horrible, awful experience that these women had this outcry. Do you think it's, no, that's even, I don't even want to go there. What is your view of greeting a man, right? Because there's the gender differences in our society. What is it? I'm even trying to think of how to phrase this because it's like, how do we not get shut down for even asking this question? Yeah. Is it important for a woman to greet a man like that and show enthusiasm that he is back in her life? Do you think that's an important piece of a relationship?
Absolutely. Why? But I think it is both ways too. I think it's important that if the woman comes home from work that she is greeted in the same manner. I think it should always be like that on both sides of both parties.
Fully agreed. Fully agreed. Do you think it's demeaning to women at all to be able to be that happy that your partner's back?
No. And I think in the instance you were talking about the video with the comments and women saying that she's acting like a puppy dog, I would say, not to be rude, that they have probably not been in a healthy relationship before.
Yeah.
They probably have not experienced that type of relationship before to feel that type of love and joy when their partner comes home.
Yeah.
Because you would just want to do that. You're not even thinking about it.
Right.
You're just excited to do that.
Right. If you're that happy, like when I watched the video, I saw this overflow of love. Like she was just so happy. And he was like, oh, and you just watched him like melt every time she jumped on him. Yeah. And I was thinking of my earliest years in my marriage. Like I would open up the door. We had a roommate at the time. I'd open up the door and I'd yell like, I'm home. And she would like leap on me. And we'd have this huge thing. And my roommate would like almost throw up in the corner because he was so sickened by it. And it was this huge thing for us. It was so big for me to be greeted when I came home taking care of our family like that. It was like I would do anything for that woman like when she did that. So taking that away would be devastating. I can't even imagine. That's wonderful. Are you going to keep doing that for him once you guys have kids? Because that's the next thing that I heard from a lot of angry, bitter guys. When you guys have kids someday, are you still going to greet him like that?
Yes. That's actually one conversation that I've brought up numerous times ever since we got engaged. We have these conversations. I'm like, are you going to love me forever? I was like, I want you to love me forever. I don't want to turn into those relationships where you're just married. You're just married. You're going through the motions. I said, I want that joy. I want that love. I want that happiness. And I want our friendship to be like this forever. I want it to always feel this way. I don't want the effort to ever be given up.
Yeah. Do you think women today are still putting in that effort?
Sometimes.
I
think it depends on the relationship.
Okay. How often do you think they're putting in that effort?
I would say in the aspect of women, I feel like they would only be putting in the effort if they were feeling effort in return. Otherwise, I don't think they are. Okay.
So if women, you feel like some women today are not putting in the effort, but the problem is that they're not receiving enough love to then feel that it's worthwhile to put in the effort. Yeah. Okay. So women are pulling back because the men need to step forward with more love and affection first. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd say honestly, that's something that I teach a lot is that guys need to step forward and be the leaders in that capacity. Yeah, we need to make women feel safe in there. Mm-hmm. I understand that.
And I think that comes forth with if women have been hurt in the past in certain relationships and their complete understanding of trust has been absolutely shattered, it's going to be hard for them to open up to a new relationship and feel that kind of joy and put the effort in if they're not seeing anything in return.
Now, I know I've been married 16 years, so I know that there's times that things don't go according to plan. You both have a bad day at the same time, right? Good people still have bad days.
Yes.
Unfortunately, those bad days can happen at the same time, right? And then you both say something stupid and you have a fight and it's the dumbest thing in the entire world. And later both of you think, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
A lot of young people today, though, when they have that moment, we get so used to just throwing relationships in the garbage. They hop on Tinder or they go on Match and they try to find somebody else or they're just done. Yeah. They're like, screw you, I'm out, and they just give up 100%. And I hate to say this, a lot of times it's guys that walk away at that point because they're like, screw this. I can find someone else easier around the corner. I don't even care. And the women are left Just like, why didn't he try? Why was it one time and it got lost? And that goes back to those women who get hurt, right? What is a moment? Take me to a moment in your relationship with your boyfriend and with your fiance where you guys had a fight and obviously you turned it around. What was a fight that you guys have had?
I know it sounds silly, but we don't fight big fight. We don't fight that often. Okay. We have little bickers. And I will say a lot of this time, it happened a lot whenever we first moved in together. It was hard. It was hard at first because I had never lived with a guy. He's obviously he had never lived with a girl. Yeah. And so it was hard to find that balance to coexist within the same home, to create that chemistry, because I will say I'm a neat freak. I'm OCD, and he's not necessarily made that way. Sure. So there were those moments where I was like, will you please pick this up? And then it would still be there. Will you please pick this up? I already asked you. And that's the only time where something would come up. I'm like, I asked you to pick this up like 5 times. I was like, will you, and then that's when it turns into a little bit of an argument. Yeah. But a lot of the times now, if an argument happens, it's like, oh, I love you. Like that's it. It's nothing huge, nothing serious, because we realize a lot of the things if we do argue, are small little minuscule topics. Like what, and we realize why does this matter? It's really not that big of a deal. Like, is it that big of a deal that there's a glass cup on the counter? Really?
I hear you. You guys have the same issues every couple on the planet does, right? Yeah. But you're not coming to screaming matches and then threatening to break up. What do you guys do differently in that moment when you have a flash of anger? What do you do different? What does he do different?
We both do it. We'll like say like jokingly, like how I said, like, oh, I just love you, and like be frustrated. And then a minute later we're like, and like 20 minutes, I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry. Okay. Like that was a little uncalled for. I'm sorry.
Okay. So you do. I have those moments with my wife too, where I say something, I walk out of the room and I walk, oh, and I go back in and say, I'm sorry. That was really uncalled for. And she says, hey, I know you're under stress. I know you didn't sleep. She does the same thing with me, right? You bark at each other, you back off, you fix it. Yeah. That's so crucial. Because
there's those moments where I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I've had a long day. I did not mean to take it out on you in that manner.
So 98% of dating relationships today split up. 98%, okay? Most couples are not doing what you're doing. Why are so many people in your generation not being able to do that? Not being able to say, hey, I'm sorry about 2 minutes ago. Why is that something they can't do?
I think it can go back to how I spoke earlier about how I had a lot of examples of healthy relationships in my life growing up. And we also come from families with very great belief backgrounds. So we have a center that we both align on and what we're actually working towards in this life. And I think that's kind of why me and my fiance work so well together. But I think a lot of people now may not necessarily have that center, may not have beliefs or have examples that they're following. So it's hard to find an understanding of what they're working towards and how to approach relationships.
Yeah. How important do you think it is to have a shared belief system as a couple?
I think it's actually really important. I know people say opposites attract, but if your goals in life and your beliefs and to your core are just complete opposite ends of the spectrum, you can like that person, but how are you supposed to love them on that deep level and connect with them on that deep level? Because ultimately you're both kind of working in opposite directions.
I know that a lot of women in the modern generation have no idea how to assess if a man shares those values with them. That's why a lot of women in your current generation, they get into a relationship and then kind of hope that it will be revealed over time, right?
I think you should just ask.
There you go. There you go.
I asked.
There you go. And how most of the women at home have never learned that they can just ask. Yeah. Most of the young women who come to me for coaching, they pop into my group coaching circles, and what they do is they say, how do I figure out in the first 3 years if he shares my values? What do I do? And I say 3 years, right? Have those conversations up front.
Yeah, up front.
How did you ask him? How did you have that conversation? For the women at home who have no idea how to even do that in the first few dates, how did you ask him?
I'll tell you, the first time he and I hung out together, we sat at our dinner table and talked for maybe 6 or 7 hours and lost track of time. And that was the very first time we had hung out. And I'll say I'm a very shy, socially awkward person. And I would kind of say he's slightly on that end too. And the way that we could just speak and talk to each other for that long and feel comfortable with asking, we asked like all these kind of deep questions that you normally typically wouldn't ask. Yeah. And I know that kind of sounds silly that if we were just hanging out for the first time, but the comfort level was present there at that time too.
Was the comfort level there because you guys were having that conversation? Is that maybe what built the comfort level?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about it in that aspect before. Maybe.
How fast did you guys get into deeper topics when you guys had that conversation? Was it in the first couple of minutes? Was it just pretty fast?
Pretty fast, I would say.
Pretty fast.
I would say we were kind of pretty open and honest about a lot of our feelings up front early on in the relationship. And I think that maybe has to do with some of our past relationships, our past findings.
Okay, here we go.
And which is kind of silly because we actually didn't really talk about a lot of our past relationships until later on in the relationship. And typically those are some of the first questions you ask people. I guess we kind of got the important. They should be, but we did talk about more of the deeper things up front.
There we go. And that's what most women, when I work with them, they're astounded. They're shocked that a man would want her to be direct. Most women are very confused. They say, men don't like that. Men don't want that. Men don't want to hear from me like that. Men want me to be fun on the first 6 months. It's fun, fun, fun. Give him fun. And guys seem to think the same thing of women in return. Everybody is petrified to have honest conversations right up front. So the women who are watching right now, the young women who are watching, saying, I have to be fun with these guys on the first, let's say 90 days. I have to be fun, fun, fun. I have to compete with the other girls on Tinder. I have to compete with the girls on his phone. I have to compete by being fun up front. He will leave the table if I try to get serious or get honest or have those conversations. Can you speak to those women right now and tell them something to carry them through? Because I'm trying to convince them maybe you can do a better job.
Well, if you're worried about being honest with how you feel and asking those hard questions, thinking he's going to leave, if you ask those questions if he leaves, let him go.
Thank you.
Let him go.
Thank you. Tell me more.
Because if you're going to ask these hard questions and kind of get to the core of a relationship that you are trying to build with somebody and they don't care to answer those questions or take the time to discuss with you, then why do you want to, then you're not kind of meant for that person anyways, because they're not willing to meet you halfway.
When a man is understanding and embracing of a woman who is clear and direct and honest, when she's her honest self and really says what she thinks and asks for what she wants, when she's that clear and he's comfortable with it, what does that mean about him?
I think he's comfortable within himself.
Ooh, is that important?
Yes.
Why?
I think it's actually important for both parties. I think both partners in a relationship should feel comfortable within their own selves before they come together to feel comfortable together. Because if not, it's not going to mesh. Okay.
So the women out there who right now are hearing this and waffling and saying, I don't know if I should be clear and honest on the first few dates because I'm not fun enough. It sounds like what you're actually saying is you are going to attract all the worst guys because you're just being fun, but you'll miss all the good guys because he'll think she's not serious enough. Do you think they're missing out on good guys? Do you think women miss out on good guys by being too shy?
Definitely.
Why?
I think people miss out on a lot of things just due to the fact of not speaking up for what they want or what they're looking for or what they believe in. And I think a lot of times maybe people are going into relationships or actually going out with other individuals, not necessarily looking for a relationship, and maybe one party is and one person isn't. And I think that's why it's important to kind of have those deeper conversations, because if you're just going on dates with somebody just to have fun, and then one of the other individual is going on dates with you to try to build a relationship, you need to have those conversations to see if you're actually working towards the same thing.
Are women today who are dating, are they too loud on their first dates or too quiet on their first dates?
I think it can go both ways. I've been in a scenario where I've been too quiet in a first date and I've been too loud on a first date. But now that I say that, I don't know if you can say it's being too loud, because if you're just being who you are and speaking up for what you believe in and they're not going to get along with that, then it wasn't going to work out in the long run anyways. It wasn't.
I love that. What happens if a woman's too quiet in her relationships?
I think if a woman is too quiet in her relationship, oftentimes the other person's personality can kind of take over theirs. And she can kind of feed off of her partner's personality instead of having her own herself.
Is it his responsibility to help her speak up, or is it her responsibility to grow her voice?
Hers. I think it's totally your own responsibility to speak up, but there's nothing ever wrong with having a partner to support you, to help you do that.
What can men out there do for women today who are feeling like their voice is not needed, or she doesn't have a voice yet? What can guys do to support women in finding that voice without overwhelming them?
I would just say kind of go back to what we talked about earlier, just making them feel loved, making them feel warm, making them feel welcome and comfortable in their own skin.
What makes a woman feel loved? What are 2 things that young men can start doing to help a woman feel loved?
Telling her you appreciate her and complimenting her on an aspect of just her personality. It doesn't have to be anything about maybe, her beauty or I love that you do this. Compliment her about something of quality of her values. I
love that. I'll let a secret out. One thing that I guide a lot of my coaching guys through when they come in and say, I don't know how to make her feel loved. I don't know. And I say, do you know how to compliment her? Most guys say, I don't know, tell her she's hot. And I say, no, there's 3 levels of compliments that you give to a woman. I've learned this with my wife, and I'm giving away the secrets. Hi, honey. So there's 3 levels of compliments. 1, yes, every 2 to 3 days, I think that I try to compliment how she looks. Hey, babe, you look great in that. That's a great outfit. Your hair looks nice today. Hey, sweetheart, that's a great dress on you. That's a great color, right? Something, because women like to hear that they still look good. Not every minute of every day, right? They get suspicious every day, but no more than 2 or 3 days go by before I make sure I compliment her looks again. Another thing, though, every 2 to 3 days, I compliment something she does, a task or an activity, or hey, babe, it really meant a lot to me that you did this for me. Thank you for this task. Thank you for that. Thank you for yours. So she's appreciated. But if you leave it at that, and most guys do, you're hot and you do stuff for me, right? Well, you can hire somebody to stand around and look hot. You can hire someone to stand around and do stuff for you. Yes. But something you just said there that I think most guys are going to miss, so I'm bringing this around, is you just gave us the secret, right? Compliment her character. That's the 3rd thing that I make sure I compliment once a week. Once a week. Women get suspicious if it's every day. But once a week. They do. Yeah, they do. Once a week, compliment her character. And for me, for my wife, that's, babe, you're a great mom. I love the way that you love our kids. You know what? You are such a good wife. You are just so loving. Our shared faith. I love that you are a woman of faith and that you always keep me on the right path, right? Her character. Yes. Compliment her character once a week. And that's what most guys miss. They don't compliment a woman's character, so she actually doesn't know how he feels about her character.
But I think that leads into the point how you said they compliment on the first 2 things. The last compliment about her character is specifically for her. The first 2 compliments were nice, but they were compliments that had a return aspect for him.
Correct. Yeah, he enjoys these 2 aspects because he benefits. Yes, he benefits from her character, but the character thing, what's great about that is it makes her irreplaceable as a person. Yes. Nobody could replace her. That's, I think, what makes women, I'll ask you, you're a woman. I think that's what makes a woman feel more secure in a relationship, is when he recognizes her character. Is that true? And if so, why?
If he recognizes her character, I think that means he is seeing you. He is seeing who you are as a person, and he understands you best that he can. It's hard to understand women, but in the best way that he can.
I love that. I love that. What is your favorite character trait that fiancé praises in you? What do you love to hear about the best from him?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I bet you know.
I don't know.
Oh, I bet you do. Sit and think about it. Think about the times he's praised you in the last month. What meant the most for him to say to you?
When he says that my presence brings joy to people's lives.
Tell me more about that. What does he say? What words does he use?
He says the way that I light up a room and just make people's day better. And it just makes me feel loved. Why nice to hear that.
What does that mean to you? Why is that special to you? Why is it important that he notices that about you?
This is getting deep. This is getting deep. I have to say, actually, growing up, that's one thing I always felt like I did. I felt like that was my point for my family. That was my role, was to bring the joy when things were down.
And he notices that. No, the response to love should be emotion. That is good. And he notices that about you and values that in you. That's wonderful. You really love him.
Sorry.
Totally fine. Totally fine. No worries. Let's bring him in to give her a hug.
She needs a boost.
She does. This is good. That's how love is supposed to be.
Can you give me a Kleenex, please?
Just Kleenex.
Yeah. I'm also sweating. Sorry. I have one in my purse. Sorry, guys.
Kimmy's getting ready to cry over there.
Fuck.
Our producer's getting ready to cry.
That's my clients.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
This is true love. This is what love is supposed to look like. Right? See? When you feel this loved, it moves you. This is what it's like. I'm looking at my producer over here off camera. This is what it's like when you are so truly loved that it brings you to tears. Yeah.
It brings him to tears.
It brings everybody to tears.
Around you to tears.
See, this is what I mean. This is the effect.
It's like a fucking...
Do you remember I told you earlier? I'm yelling at my producer about love now. See what you're doing to me.
What you doing to us?
When people are invested in the love that a couple has, this is what they feel.
This is what we feel.
This is what you
so
feel.
Genuine. Everyone is affected. Even Zeke is.
See?
Hey, Zeke, I see you crying.
Our camera guy's crying in the corner over here. But this is what love is supposed to do. This is so. Kenzie, you said earlier that you grew up with a great example of love. You grew up with a good example of how to treat each other. That's exactly what's happening right here. It's not only, hopefully the people at home are crying right now, but when people see real, authentic love, it changes everything because they've never believed in it before.
Yeah.
They've never believed that it was real and possible before. That's wonderful. I would love to take this moment because we put a pin in your engagement. I know you've been patiently waiting, and I have too. Talk to me a little bit about that, right? The big question that everybody always asks is, how did he propose? How did he propose to you? What was it like?
A complete surprise.
Ooh.
I was shocked. Literally, no idea. Did not see it coming at all. We had a vacation planned, and it was the first time he was going to Universal, Harry Potter. I used to go like once or twice a year. And I had, life got crazy. Haven't been able to do that. And this is the first time he was able to go. So we planned a trip to do that. And then we also planned to go visit my grandma over at her house in Florida, and we planned to go to the beach. So we had a very, very busy, jam-packed vacation.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So we went on vacation, and we were, honestly, it was like the last day of our trip, and we were still at the beach, and we were getting ready we were packing, going to the car, just kind of walking up on the beach. And he was like, hey, do you want to film the rest of your TikTok video? Because during vacation, I was doing like one of the TikTok trends where you just walk in and out of each frame at each location you're at. I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, do you want to be? And he was like, I'll be in this one with you.
Oh, he was sneaky.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, because my grandma was there.
Oh, he was so sneaky.
My Grammy was there. And she was like, yeah, I was like, just hold the phone.
He even got grandma on it.
Well, she didn't know.
Ooh.
He didn't even tell her.
Ooh.
So we go on screen to film the TikTok. And I have to say, I cut this part off of the video because I posted part of the video on my socials. Is that I was like, no, you're supposed to walk off. I was telling him we did it wrong. Restart. And he was like, no, wait a second. And he like grabbed my hand and like brought me to him and, gave his little speech. And then I realized, as soon as I realized I was having, I went, oh, like, and then like shock, like immediate shock. And got down on one knee, obviously I said yes.
Yes.
I said yes.
Yes.
And then we go back over, had our moment. People started cheering for us and walked back over to Grammy, and she's crying and still holding the phone, not moving it because she said she didn't want to mess it up. And she's like, I can't believe it. And I said, Ethan, you didn't even tell my Grammy you were going to do this right now? And he said, no, it was a surprise. But he did. He did ask my father's permission.
Oh, he did.
He did. So my parents knew and his parents knew, but nobody else.
That is something most guys don't do anymore, is ask the father's permission.
That was actually one of my first questions. After I said yes, we were walking back. I said, did you ask my dad? And he said, yes, I asked your dad. Yeah.
What made that special for you, him asking your dad? Because a lot of ladies today say, well, no, that doesn't need to happen anymore. And I think it's been missed. What was special about that for you?
Well, I spoke earlier about how we have the same values and same beliefs, and it just kind of solidified that he knew that was definitely an important aspect to me and enough importance to him to feel like he needed to do that.
I love that. You know, I will say growing up, I always thought I wasn't raised, asking dad was important or anything like that. And I grew up thinking, it's not that important. I got married to my wife and we went through all of that and everything. And her dad wasn't much engaged anyway. But now I have 3 daughters.
And you want that to happen?
And the game changes a little bit when that happens, right? All of a sudden you're a little invested. And it's not like, no, I don't want to let them out of the cage. It's like, I want to make sure.
Yeah.
This guy's coming in, like, he's going to ask me, is it okay? And that's my opportunity, right? To grill him and be like, what are you going to do to make sure that she is respected in this home? What are you going to do? How are you going to handle? What do you, like, all the millions of questions to build a relationship with him. That's the moment I'm really going to build a relationship with him, right? So.
Can I tell you something?
Please.
So I asked him, when I said, did you ask my dad? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, what did he say? And he said, well, that was between me and him. And then come to find out,
interesting, my
mom, and I think he kind of told me later on that when he was getting ready to ask my dad, he said, Matt, I have a question for you. And immediately, he didn't even say it. My dad said, yes.
Wow.
He said 100% yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Why that fast?
I think it goes along with the lines of all the things Ethan does for me. It's not unnoticed. All the 5 love languages, all the quality time, all the different aspects that he brings to our relationship and care that he does for me. And I notice it, but apparently it's noticed by.
So he does that. He gives that love even in front of your family. He gives that love. He's consistent. Does he have a relationship with your parents? Do they talk? Does he know? Okay, they do. They do. They do. That's something that's also missing today is most people aren't even building relationships outside of it. That's
actually one of our favorite things to do. We will go out to dinner with my parents or we'll just go to my parents' house and we'll have a late night of playing euchre.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we play euchre and have gin and tonic.
That is so important. That is so important to have good relationships like that. I hope, and I'm trying to build that with my daughters. What is one thing your dad has done to build a proper relationship with you where you want to come back to him as you're an adult and you don't need him anymore? What has your dad done as a father to make sure that you keep wanting to come back?
He has always been the foundation, like the ground of our family. Like I love my mom. She's always obviously a rock to me as well, but he is the rock. He has this wisdom and he listens to you. And it's oftentimes, I think, as a daughter, it's hard to talk to your dad about certain things, but the way that he listens and discusses life and several things with me has just always made me feel comfortable. And the advice he gives me has always been wonderful. And he always says, this is just advice. These are just words that I can tell you. He said, it's your life. You do what you want. But here is my stance on the situation. Here's something for you to think about.
So he respects you and tries to guide you at the same time when you're ready for it.
Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Do you think more daughters today need that from their fathers? Are we in a place where fathers are needed? Because a lot of people say fathers aren't needed anymore.
I've had one of the best dads out there. I know everybody says they have the best dad in the world, but I've had one of the best, and I couldn't imagine my life without him. I think I would be a complete different person. So I 100% believe that having that father figure in your life is one of the key aspects of forming you of who you are.
I love that. I love that. Let's go back to your marriage or your engagement, I should say. Marriage is coming fast. It's got to. That's the point of it all. In the next, let's project out, right? Let's project out because I love marriage. It's my favorite thing in the world, to be honest with you. Let's project out 5, 10 years. What are you looking forward to when you get married? Because I'm just gonna give you the context here. Most people view getting married as the finish line. Most people are rushing. It should be. But most people are rushing forward so hard in the dating cycle that they're like, okay, I got to get married and that's it. And that's the end of it all, right? And that's why I think they are picking the wrong person, is because they're viewing that as their end goal. Like, okay, I've locked it in now. And then they sit there and look at each other and say, what the hell next? Yeah. Like, why are you still here? Now? Yeah. Like, I forgot you were here.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to in the next 5 to 10 years of your marriage? When you hit the starting line, what does that begin for you?
Just building our life together. We live together now, but we're like renting a place, and we want to build a home. And we talk about it all the time. We have these plans. We have land. We want to build a home that we can share within ourselves, that we can have our families come and visit. And eventually, he wants kids. We were a couple of kids, perhaps. Lucky if I, 1 or 2. That's enough for me. But, eventually all of that. And that's what we're looking forward to. And we talk about that all the time. All the time.
When do you want to have kids? What's the timing for you?
Well,
tomorrow, 10 years?
With my beliefs, you can never really put a timing on anything. But I am fine with, I want us to just have this moment with us now. We just got engaged. Mm-hmm. I want to be married a couple of years. Have, build a home, get all that, and then build a home.
Build a nest.
Yes.
Build a nest.
Build the nest.
I hear you.
And then build the nest.
I hear you. So I follow you on Instagram, right? I love your Instagram material. I love watching it with my daughter. She's a fashionista. Everything is like leopard print for her, and she's all over that, and I have no clue. So it's cool to have you to be like, hey, sweetheart, look at this. She's like, ooh, again. And so I'm curious to you, where is that going to be for you in the next couple of years? A lot of women feel like they have to give up their career for marriage. Other women are like, no, my career is everything. I'll sacrifice kids for my career, kind of thing. Where's that balance for you? What is career and what is Instagram and all that and his career? What does that look like for you as a young couple today?
Well, just in my terms, I think everybody can choose where they want to place their career on their importance level in their lives. But my career is important to me, and I hope I'm able to continue my social media work, for as long as I can. I hope this pans out to be as big as I want it to be. I've been working at it a long time, mostly on Instagram and TikTok at the Kenzie Carter, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at that.
She's a professional, guys. I like this.
And I love doing the beauty, fashion, and lifestyle things. And I'm hoping, coming with my proposal, with my marriage, that I can start to fuse that into the lifestyle aspect of the content that I create. I love doing videos where Ethan's just like slightly in them, and actually people typically like engage more with things when he's in it as well, because I think it's kind of giving a like behind the scenes snippet of what I do in everyday life. But he works. He's a blue collar worker. Love my blue collar man.
They're the best guys.
And we make it work. We have totally 2 different career paths, but we're still working towards the same goal.
I love that. That's fantastic. I will ask this, and maybe it's a delicate question, but eventually you're going to get pregnant, right? I'm assuming you're still going to post like pregnancy fashion at that point or something like that. Is there a point where you're going to pause your career at all to take care of kids? Because that's a big question a lot of women have to face. Is there going to be a pause? Is there going to be an end? Are you going to continue? Are you going to hire 15 nannies? Like, what are you going to do?
Well, I don't know. That's a great question, but I don't think I will know until that time has come in my life. Like I won't know what I want to do until that time comes. Of course, after I have a child, I would want to take that time to, figure out how to be a mother. Because people say having your first one's hard. Adding a second one's not as hard, but figuring out how to be a parent the first time around is kind of hard. So obviously I would take that time to figure all that out. But as in terms of my career, I wouldn't give up on it. I would just maybe take a break, rebalance, figure out what I need to do, and find a way to make all these new puzzle pieces fit into my life and to form one big puzzle.
I love that. Is that, and here's a big piece, so take your time on this one. Is that a conversation you're going to have alone with yourself and decide for yourself what you want to do with a career? Or is that a conversation that's a bigger one for your relationship? How much input are you going to take from your then husband? Is that I as a woman will decide my career, or is that we will decide my career?
I think both. I think for me, I would need to decide what I feel I want to do, but then you need to discuss it in your marriage. What do we need to do for this family?
Can you have it both ways?
You have to make compromises, but that's like with any aspect in life.
How much compromise are you willing to give on that career aspect? And this is not a test, right? Every woman has her balancing point. How much are you going to focus on family versus career? What does that look like for you right now, even just at this moment, crystal balling it?
It's probably 50-50 right now.
Okay.
If I have to say.
Okay.
I spend a lot of hours working, but then on the weekends I'm pretty much always spending time with my family in some way.
Understood. So. Sounds like you're going to keep your eyes open as you go forward and figure out what that balance point is, because you haven't even investigated.
And I think that balance will change throughout my entire life.
Yeah.
I think it will always be at one level or the other.
Yeah. I hope you're always producing something for me and my daughter to watch together. So
I hope so.
I hope so. If you're pregnant at the time, she'll just be happy because she loves to pretend to be pregnant because her mom's pregnant all the time.
Does she have like those motherly instincts?
Oh my
loves to play with dolls and everything.
Oh, it's brutal. She'll walk out of the room with like her stuffed animal stuffed in her shirt, and she just walks out, "Dude, I'm pregnant." I'm like, "You're 6." but it's a game to her. Yeah. It means something because her mom is frankly always pregnant in our home. Yeah. So it means something.
That's just what she's seen it. She's learned it.
Absolutely. But then she's also pulls out her toy laptop and says, "Dad, I'm sending emails." And she's dad for a while, and she runs her own pretend coaching clinic and everything like that. So she's doing both.
Yeah.
One thing I've encountered quite often is when I talk to women today, it's not that they don't want to be with their partner, but they have a really hard time determining if he's actually going to be the one who goes the distance with them, right? If in my generation, we always say, if this is the horse to hitch my cart to, right? If he's actually going to take me there without abandoning me halfway through, or I don't want to regret this like my mom did, right? There's a lot of fear around that. How did you know that your fiancé was the right man for you? What made you say yes? What about him did that?
This may sound like a cliche answer, but when you know, you know. From my partner, the effort was always there. The love was always there. The comfort was always there. The quality time he tried to spend with my family was always there. Going out of his way for me and my loved ones was always there. He was just always the perfect one for me.
So when women hear that, they're probably crying in the audience right now, which is a good thing. When guys hear that, and here's something interesting. When men hear that, they'll hear a list of actions he performed and a list of services, right? Ways he made you feel. But I sense that there's something even deeper beneath that, right? Mm-hmm. Because those things he's doing mean something.
Yes. What
did those things mean about him?
It shows his love. You asked me, well, what does it mean to feel loved? What does it mean to be loved? How do you show your love? It's a multitude of things. But you said there's a deeper understanding to that. Well, those deeper understandings, I think, are hard to put into words. So we just define them in the minuscule ways we can with the words to kind of explain them the best we can. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying it in these terms, even though they are more on a deeper level.
Mm. When we talked earlier about him praising your character, right? It took you a minute to kind of think about those things he says. What do those things that you just listed mean about his character? Describe his character in traits. Describe his character to me in the pieces of him that you admire and respect.
He is kind and that he cares and that he values other people and it's hard because he's just not like other people I've met.
In what ways is he different?
In all the ways.
That's good. That's good. Is he honest?
Yeah.
Does he keep his word?
Yes.
Is he strong in his character?
Yes.
How? What are his strengths?
I have to say he's confident. He thinks what he thinks and he doesn't. That's one thing that maybe sometimes if we have a little argument, it's because we both are very strong in our ideas and what we think. So he doesn't let other people's opinions waver that of his character. He doesn't let other people's opinions change his character.
Sometimes we call that a sovereign man. He is sovereign over himself. Is that something you would say about him?
Yeah, it is.
Does that make you trust him?
Yes.
Why? What does that mean as a woman?
Kind of back to what I said earlier, that it shows he has trust in himself and he is comfortable in his own sense of self. So that makes him able to be comfortable and have a sense of self with somebody else. You have to have trust within yourself to form that trust with another.
Does it mean maybe, and I'll just spitball, does it mean maybe that nobody's going to be able to push him around?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it mean that you don't have to worry about somebody going out there and corrupting him or confusing him or twisting him up?
Yeah.
Does that make you feel safe as a woman?
It does.
Why? What does that do for you?
It's a sense of home and a sense of, back to the trust, like you can trust that that's going to be a constant.
Constancy.
Consistency, yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. Sounds like you really do respect him then.
I do.
I love that. You know, a lot of women today, and I've gone on Twitter, and I've been just skewered on Twitter for this one. But I do say that a woman must, if she's going to be with a man, she has to respect him. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. If you're going to be with anybody, you need to respect them. But even if you're going to be friends with somebody, you need to respect them.
Agreed. Agreed. A lot of women today have a hard time with the concept of saying, I respect you to a man. In particular, women in my generation. Your generation, I don't know where you guys are at yet, but women in my generation have a very hard time when I tell them, and I say, you know, do you like him? Yeah. Okay. Do you respect him? And they're like, well, yeah, I do. And I say, have you ever told him that? No. And I say, why not? Does he say he loves you? Yeah. Does it mean a lot? Absolutely. Okay. Have you ever told him that you respect him? Well, do I have to use that word? And they do that. They go, and they make that face. Do I have to use that word? And I will say as a man, it means so much more to me when my wife says, I respect you, even than it does when she says, I love you. Because I love you is a cool feeling, right? I love you is a good feeling. But when she says, I respect you, oh, that's like everything. That tells me that she sees my character.
I was like, that's speaking on your character.
That's exactly. And so many women today seem uncomfortable with saying, I respect you to a man. And you're comfortable with that. Have you ever told him that you respect him? Have you ever looked him in the eyes and said, I respect you?
I don't know. If I haven't, I should have.
So I always give homework for my coaching. Your homework is to go and say that to him and see what he does.
Well, you know, it sounds silly if anytime something comes up in any conversation, be like, respect.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes. So hey, respect, right? But sometime in the next year, look at him, put your hands on his chest, and look up at him and look him in the eyes and say, "I respect you." Yeah. See what he does. I'm curious to see what he's going to do, because most guys, right, when you look him in the eye and say, "I love you," he'll go, "Oh, thank you, babe," or like, "I love you too." That's usually what you get. But I'm curious to see what he's going to say. You know, come back and tell me. Yeah. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. Hey, Adam, this is what happened, because I want to see it. I want to see it. Have your grandma film it. There you go. There you go. Turn the tables. Fantastic. Do you think that's something that more women should practice at home, saying "I respect you" to that man? Do you think that's an important thing in a relationship?
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
I think in general, the concept needs to be within the home. Mm-hmm. And now that you asked me, I'm not actually sure I've ever said it out loud, but even if it's an action, we should make sure that we are saying it out loud and making it known to our partner as well. Absolutely.
And that's what most women say is, "Well, I'm already doing it, so he should know." And I say, do you want him to do that with love? Well, no, I need him to say "I love you." It
kind of goes to the same concept. Like if I dressed up a certain day and like, he doesn't have to compliment me, but if he didn't say, "Hey, it's a really pretty outfit. You look really nice today."
Right.
That's so nice.
Right.
Even if he already thought it, but he didn't say it. Like, it's totally different for him saying it out loud and saying it.
Well, babe, I don't need to compliment you. I already slapped you on the butt, and that's good enough, right?
No, yeah.
It doesn't sound the same.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey, and hey, why should I have to say "I love you"? Because I already show it to you. Does that sound right?
No.
Right. But so many women today, why should I have to say "I respect him"? I already show him that I respect him. It doesn't sound right either, does it?
No, it doesn't.
There we go. Well, I think we can agree on that. Okay. So that's your homework. Go tell him that you respect him. Please report back.
All right. Will do.
To all the young women who are out there right now, is there anything you would like to say to them to get them through the next couple of years of dating, or to help them find their fiancé, their forever after guy? Because a lot of them, they can't even imagine that right now. What would you like to say to them out there?
There is light at the end of the tunnel. I had gotten to a point in my dating history where I felt comfortable being alone. And I was like, you know what? I'm done dating now. I'm kind of fine with just being with myself the rest of my life. And you may think that's funny, but even my parents and my siblings were like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't decided not to get married. And like we were to that point. And it's another cliche thing, but it always happens when you least expect it. I wasn't looking at the time. You can never go actively looking for it, because then you're just trying to fit somebody into your life that maybe isn't necessarily supposed to fit.
Yeah, you're just super thirsty. It's not a good look.
Yeah, thirsty. But it does happen when you least expect it, and it will happen to you. It happened to me. Mm-hmm. It can happen to you.
The best saying I've heard is life happens when you're living it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's the game.
It does. That's great.
Now, Kenzie, I love following you on Instagram and TikTok. Every time I open it up, you're like half the time you're the first person to pop up because the algorithm knows that my daughter and I love it. For the people at home who want to watch your material and want to see all your cool stuff that you do on there, tell them what your handles are. Tell them where they can find you. Tell them what they can expect when they open up your page.
Well, I'm a content creator in the beauty, fashion, and lifestyle space, and I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok, but my Instagram handle is @Kenzie Carter, and I have a link in my bio there with all my other socials, but I'm highly present on TikTok, and if you search my name, Kenzie Carter, I hope my face would pop up, but I'm sure it will be there as well.
What is one thing that they can expect to find when they pop open your page on TikTok? What are they going to find?
You're going to find makeup. You're going to find outfits. You're going to find silly little trend videos. You're going to find videos with my fiance in it. It's kind of really just whatever fits into my day that day.
I love that. I love that. I love your wall that you have in the background when you look at the wall. It's like, what the? Like, it's amazingly decorated.
Yeah, it's a lot going on, but yeah.
No, it's cool. I'm going to have you decorate my wall or something in my office. My daughter would love that. She's like, oh, I have the wall, she would probably say. So that'll be fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was fun. Fantastic. I can't wait to have you back, especially once I hear the report from your homework.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. It was great coming back today.